Welcome to the Plugging Technology into the Agriculture Classroom edition of CTE Inspired. I'm Dr. Robin McLean and live in New Jersey. I've been an educator for 23 years. I just want to make sure we know that this is not just for agriculture teachers. In the time that we have together today, I'm going to share a brief why ed tech and then essentially do almost 4 rounds of speed dating of 4 technologies I've enjoyed plugging into my ag classroom: Flipgrid, Formative, Nearpod, and Wakelet. So let's get started with why ed tech. Educational technology gives students the opportunity to create and engage. It gives them the chance to collaborate, but also provides us as educators with the opportunity to give feedback in a timely manner as well as a varied manner. Important to consider when choosing ed tech: the right tool for the right job at the right time. As we get started, we're going to take a look first at Flipgrid. Flipgrid is free. If you notice the QR code on the screen, scanning that will provide you with a collection of resources related to Flipgrid. And now for a brief overview of what Flipgrid offers. Let's take a look. Flipgrid is a tool that I've been using for a while because it allows student voice and it allows for collaboration and feedback. It is synchronized with both Google and Microsoft, so you have flawless access and designed to integrate to the Flipgrid experience. Groups are essentially I've set up to be my classes, but they could be other groupings that you have. And then within each group, you will see items that are your topics or your key concepts. Also, if you return to that area that says discussion, any of the topics you create will be there. And a topic can be set up in such a way where you have a prompt and you have instructions for your students. You have the ability to edit it, and when it comes time to providing it for your students, a multitude of ways to share. Creating a topic is quite basic. You simply hit create topic, give it a title, a prompt. You could add media if desired. You have the control over the permissions. You can also moderate the topic. This is often something I do in the first video students record, so they feel comfortable, but I also make sure they're using the tool appropriately. You're able to add resources, and you can create the dates that you want your topic to be active. Once you're all done with that, you would hit create topic. Now, the great thing about Flipgrid is, like many things, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there is something called a discovery library, and maybe you wanted to do something related to the water cycle. You could go to the discovery library. If you're teaching middle school students, you could have the middle school community, you could have the high school community. If you discover something like water cycle in a bag, and you see, hey, this teacher has provided directions, they've explained what they want to do, you can actually share that topic by copying the link itself and putting it to Twitter or Facebook, because, hey, you want people to know it's a good idea. Or you can add that topic into one of your groups simply by selecting your group. I am not going to add that to one of my groups and confuse my students. There are so many ways to use Flipgrid. I'm going to share this on the screen as I talk about some of the ways I have used it. I have used it to help train state officer candidates, asking them a question, having them respond. It's asynchronous, but it allows them to develop some of that skill. And then we have face-to-face. I have heard of teachers using it to create virtual career fairs and using guest passcodes to allow people to access it. Recently, a blog came out with several other ideas, creating vision boards, minute-to-win-it challenges, countdown calendars, personal narrative sharing. They also included things like student portfolios, different parent-teacher conferences. They also had one where it was doing a virtual club fair. This potentially could be really good depending on where you're at next year. Learning to pronounce student names. So again, so many ideas. in a tool that really allows for the opportunity to give students voice in the learning experience. As we move on and take a look at our next tool, I'm going to identify formative as a freemium. There are free options available, but then there are upgrades that you can pay for. Also, working through some of the power level user features allows you to gain some of those freemium resources at no cost based on the training you receive. So here's a quick look at the newest tool that I've added to my toolkit. Formative is the newest tool in my toolkit, and you are able to create folders and organize. When I first heard the concept formative, I thought formative assessment in terms of test questions only, but it is amazing the variety of content you can add to a formative. So there's audio and images and text blocks. You can have a whiteboard. You can upload your own content. And the reason I share this, and I did use this as an assessment, was I had a plant diagram and I was able to have my students label the diagram and it auto-corrected for me. It also allowed me the opportunity to have a categorized where students sorted into the different areas, multiple choice, matching. There was even a component as we talked about the concept of terrace farming, and we talked about the 3 sisters that we were able to add that. And you can see that I've got lots of answers here. That's because if a student had a correct answer, I was able to adapt and accept that answer, and it rescored it automatically. What this looks like on the teacher end, and I'm going to go to the one that had all the drawings and scroll very quickly through it, is it says draw a picture of what terrace farming looked like. And you're actually able to take a look at all your student answers in one place. Now, this one I did not have as an auto score, but again, a great tool in that regard. I also have used it as a worksheet that we can go through in class together to make connections with. And so we have the activity of product or byproduct. And from the student view, and I'll go to a student computer view as opposed to a tablet or phone view. We could go through and we could look at this together and they could make their match and then they could make their guess and we could review that content. And as a teacher, as they're working through it, I get to see and track where they're at and what I can do to continue to support their learning. I had a video that was embedded in it and had them start to match the products of agriculture and byproducts of agriculture that might be in a baseball. And so again, just another way to gain a pulse of where your students are, to use a variety of tools to be able to give some fairly instant feedback, but also, and I don't have a live version in the works, but as students are working, you can even comment as they're working and give them real-time feedback. Formative is the next tool that I want to feature is Nearpod. Again, I'm going to call Nearpod a freemium. There is a free version, limited storage in that. Some of the features that I may be describing are not accessible in that free version. There's also paid and school versions. Again, just a reminder, these QR codes will take you to a link of resources related to Nearpod. And so let's take a look at this tool and engaging students. Since 2014, I have been using Nearpod in my classroom. And for students, they would simply enter a join code on a lesson that you have created. And they can use it on their iPads, they can use it on their Chromebooks, they can use it on their tablets. It is integrated with Google and Office 365, or you could create your own username and password to log in and get connected. What I have done a lot of with Nearpod is taken some of the ICEV materials and created them and turned them into something that my students are able to have some more interaction with. And so we'll take a look at the lesson, benefits and responsibilities of owning companion animals. And so I've used the ICEV content But then I have students engage in a collaborate board and kind of share a little bit related to pets. And then as we move through, I have the concept of the fill in the blank notes, but I have them thinking about that content as well. And so we have the word euthanize. What do you think it means? And so building on that content. And this gives me a way to kind of check in with students as we go through, get them thinking, make sure that they are engaging with the content. It is easy to create a lesson. You would go into create and lesson. If your school had a subscription, you'd be able to use Google Slides. But once you have this set up, you are able to add video and slides and web content. There are 3D diagrams. Now, they do have a limited collection right now, but I know that sometimes if we have an animal science class, we might be interacting with the 3D animal cell. If we are going on a field trip, we want to virtually bring our students somewhere, there are field trips. There's the collaborate board. So there's a lot of ways to give your students a chance to interact with content. My students, we do time to climb. It's a competitive event, but again, a content review. And I'm going to back out of this. In the end, after a lesson happens, you are able to get a report of how your students actually did. And I'm not going to open a report specifically to protect my student privacy, but at the same time, what you're able to do is you're able to take a look at how many students participated. This with the little house means that it was student-paced, and so they worked through it on their own, possibly as a review. These were students participating in class at different times. I will use an example actually to see a report of one that I had used with teachers. So we'll take a look at what a report looks like. And so we'll look at this report from the Connecting Learners with Content from Thrive. You can see how many students participated. You can see when the lesson launched. But then in general, you are actually able to see their different levels of participation and involvement, as well as how they were responding to the questions and what overall their responses were. So a nice overview, easy for you to take a look at in terms of student information. Additionally, there is the opportunity at Nearpod to search for ready-made lesson plans. Some are free, some need to get paid for, but if you go ahead and you go to Nearpod Library, and let's say I wanted something on plants, I then have the ability to identify based on grade level, based on content. I could even base on standards, or if I wanted videos or activities. So again, rich information, some already free and created and available. A great way for students to engage and interact with their learning and give you some feedback. And the last tool that I want to share is a tool that is currently entirely free, an organization tool, but also a collaboration tool. You may have noticed, if you did choose to scan any of our resource codes yet, it is the tool that I've used to organize our resources, and it is called Wakelet. So let's take a look at this great collaborative organizing tool. Wakelet is a versatile tool to use in the classroom. The most basic way would be to save bookmarks. And there is an integrated feature, a Chrome extension, that you're able to access Wakelet on the site and allow it to create a bookmark. And you could simply save it as a bookmark, or you have the ability to add to a collection. And so maybe you wanted to create a collection that was frequently used student sites. And that way you would share this collection with your students. You could give it a description. Once you create, you save the bookmark, and you've got this new collection with bookmarks available. However, I've said the word collection a few times. A collection is a great way to compile resources for your students in one easy spot. And so you are able to add web addresses, but also text, images, bookmarked content, upload PDFs, and add from a variety of apps, and you have the ability to customize it. This could be something you keep for your own lesson planning and keep it private. You could make it unlisted and give people the link, or you could make it public and anyone you wanted could see the collection. There's also the ability to invite contributors. And so you are able to have other teachers or even students collaborate with you on an activity. So it creates this collaborative learning journey. Now, I'm not going to save that Wakelet, I'm going to back out. And you can see that I have several Wakelets created. As we take a look at a collection, and I'll go to the collection I've created to align with this conference, we can have headers that are customized to our content, and then have a variety of tools available. I have actually embedded Wakelet collections within this Wakelet and then attached a Google Doc. And so a variety of ways to use it, to access it. And then when you share, you could put it in Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, use a QR code. So a great way to pool information, to share information out. Wakelet itself has a variety of templates, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and they've got newsletters and lesson plans. Additionally, there's a tool where you can search any public collections. And so if I were going to be teaching something on welding, maybe I want some welding resources, and in that search, any public collection is returned to me. And so this one happens to have articles and resources. I could react to it with a thumbs up, or I also have the ability to save the Wakelet myself. As I share with you, I also want to make you aware you have a public profile on Wakelet. So this could be a way to communicate with your students as they look at different categories and content. And so your 8th graders, maybe they get Ag 8 resources, and you share with them, some strategies for measuring a tree, because maybe you're remote learning and they don't have help. And so there's articles, there's YouTube, again, creating a resource pool. Possibilities, endless. This is simply some of those examples, but resources, introductions, newsletters, event recaps, even some personal use as you're engaging in. So Wakelet is a as you can see, Wakelet is a great tool. As we're coming towards the close of our time together, I want you to know that, again, that collection with all our resources is available at that QR code, and it will give you access to the variety of tools that I shared, kind of the 4 nutshell versions of the tech that I have relied on this school year. And I want to challenge you as we come to the close and have the opportunity for some question and answer as it is, to scan this QR code or play out the full link there and take the opportunity to reflect. And I've recently learned about this tool of reflection with the emojis, a collaborative board, and the opportunity to share either a wow, the big takeaway, a how, the burning question, and the now. And traditionally the now is, hey, what are you going to apply right away? Being that this is a summer conference, I want to give you the opportunity to think about what you might apply in the upcoming school year. As a note, I am available for questions. If I am not able to get to your question during this session, feel free to reach out to me. There's my school email. I have 2 Twitter handles, the one that is RC McLean, general professional. If it's more school specific, sharing of student work, it's at NB Middle Ag. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you 4 of the key technologies I've used this year: Nearpod, Wakelet, Formative, and Flipgrid, to help students engage, collaborate, get feedback, and also create.